Hello, everybody. Well, even though it's just a short period of time after Wednesday's broadcast when I'm pre-recording this for you, you are watching this on Friday for Free Tip Friday. So welcome, everybody. It's great to have you all here. Well, I'm still here in my studio in Fresno at my home, and I have completed the bracelet here as far as I wanted to. Um, so now I can show you how to finish this. So let's just jump in and make this happen, shall we? So let me get my camera into position here and let's go ahead and take a look at what I've got here for us to look at. So I'm so glad you liked this project as much as I do. It's our water garden project that was originated for us by one of our design team members, Ali Mori. And it's gone through a few interpretations, and this is my latest interpretation of the piece. So here's the piece, and remember we talked a little bit about the design of the piece. So we've got the 10mm English cuts there in the center. We've got the regular Ceylon in gold. We've got the check smooth drops. We've got a 6mm fire polish, and we've got an 8/0 bead here. And of course, we've got a button. I've created a couple of dangles that I'm going to share with you. Also, since I was at home, I didn't have any jump rings, right, to connect this clasp or this charm to this. So I made a little bail. I'll show you how I did that. I'll finish that up with the seed beads, and we'll add those to the final piece. And then, of course, I've got a button right here. So what I did was I mirrored, you can see the pattern here on the bracelet, and I double checked my wrist size. Now my wrist is 6.5 inches, so I want about a almost 7.5, like just super shy of 7.5 inches. So if you see, if I bring it around my wrist like this and I kind of bring this around, you can see that fit for me is about exactly right. And so I know just really by looking at this that I'm going to have my loop be about here. So I kind of need to start my closure here pretty quickly. Okay, so I have these little roller beads here that I was going to do the closure with. So I think we talked about just using two so I can put the loop inside, you know, coming out from those two beads, but I think this is actually going to make it too long. So I'm going to pull this back through and then I'll do my my macrame over this. So I'm going to go ahead and just use that single and it will be fine. I do need to connect this, lash this down to my board. So I'll get my little loop of Ceylon here. And I'm going to attach it. You can see I've kind of looped it through. And then I'm going to use my clamper here to clamp this to the board. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give myself, well, let me make these little closures first, these little charms, and then I'll show you how I'm going to put them on. So what I did here was I used the 8/0 beads, and you can see I just got a length of the Ceylon, and I strung, let's see, 2, 4, 6, I strung on 8 of those 8/0s, and then I went through the charm one way and the other way with the thread. And I'm tightening it up like this. And so now I'm just going to tie a square knot right on top. See how it's going to sit right on top of that charm right there? And so I'm going to do that half hitch right over left, and now I'm going to do the left over right and tighten it down. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add just a dot of the hypo cement onto that. And I'll wait until this has dried completely, and I'll use my thread burner to burn off these ends. But for now, I'm just going to trim the ends kind of close so this thread doesn't get in my way. Let's see if I can get that closed. There we go. Okay, so let me just clip these just a little bit so I don't have a crazy amount of thread. You could also like do little dangles. I could have strung some beads on here and tied a knot and had some more dangles here, but I'm just going to go and have this just be the plain bail like this. Okay, and I'll push this side through here, so I'll be able just to get my thread burner up tight in there after that glue has set and burn it off. So here are my two little charms that I've made with the beads. Okay, you can see that there. So I've got a couple of half hitch knots here at the end. So I'm going to make myself one more set because these dangles need a place to live. So if you want to make, you need to kind of size this piece, you know, to work for your wrist. You don't want to make it too large. So you could come in and make the connections between, you know, the macrame sections between the beads a little bit tighter to tighten it up. You could also make these like this one. You could, instead of using the 10 millimeter bead, you could use an 8 millimeter for some of these to make it a little bit smaller as well. So it just depends on what you need to do to make this work for your wrist. So I'm going to get all of my strands here, and these little charms are just going to sit right on the end here. Actually, I need just a couple more, I think, because that 8/0 bead has a little bit of width to it. So here and here, there we go. That looks okay. So let me get these through and then I'll really know what I need to do here. So I'm going to get all 4 of my strands together and I'll string those charms on. So here's these, and this, and this. There we go. And I think I'll do this bead first. I don't think it matters, really. And then this bead. You know, this is dry pretty, I mean, I would let this sit overnight. I'd let it sit 24 hours, but I don't want to come in with the tip of my thread burner and maybe have an accident later. So let me just burn or singe this cord up next to that knot. But when I glue, I like to let that glue really permeate that knot and sit undisturbed for 24 hours. But I like it better without those strands there. So let me just put all of these through. Slide all this down. Let me get it into position here. I've got a little bit of a tangle off camera, so bear with me. There they come. So these are just going to sit here and here. Now I'm going to continue. Make sure I've got my outer threads. Here's my interior threads, my outer threads. And I'll tie a couple more, just, you know, the plain flat macrame to go around it. Now, I could have put, you know, just a single one of these, or I could have put one on this opposite side by the button. That would work too, but I want to show you how they look right here. So let's get that. I'm going to kind of shove that up there so I can have some room to do these knots. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my roller bead. And this roller, let me get a little closer. And you know, on beadshop.com, we have our tutorials for this basic flat macrame knot. So you don't need to worry about if I'm not showing it to you in too much detail today. Just go right to beadshop.com under our Learning tab, and you'll see the skill builder for the half hitch flat macrame if you need a little bit of a refresher. All right, so now we need to make this the correct length so that the loop will fit over our button. So again, I want to make sure I'm continuing to use those strands that have come down the center. So now I'm going to macrame at Kate speed here. What I like to say is at Kate speed, because I've got to go fast because there's a lot. I've got to probably make at least, I'm going to say, 1.5 inches worth of our macrame here. So you're just going to have to hang in here with me, and I'll talk about some design variations and stuff about this project. So if you'll remember, let me put it on the screen while I'm doing this. Bear with me here just a moment. You can see that one that I did from earlier when we did the project with Allie a while back. You can see you can substitute a lot of different beads in this project. And when I was making this piece, if you didn't watch Wednesday's broadcast, I would go ahead and go back and watch it, so you have a little bit of info on how I chose my beads, etc. But essentially for this project, like I said, I used the 10mm English cut, but you can see in this photo how I have two different sizes of the English cuts. I've got a 10mm, which are the white ones in there, and then they're offset by the 8mm, which are the purple ones in there. So you can go back and forth with those sizes. Okay. I also, you can see the 6mm that I used. In those with those drops, you can see that one little section that's going around the white bead. I didn't use 3 drops. Instead, I used 1 drop for the center, and then I used the 6mm fire polish on either side. All you really need to do is, look at your patterns that you're going to use and measure those out. That's what I did with this piece. And so I measured when I got to the center. So I knew if I mirrored this, I would have enough length. Now, you really do this closure, and this is going to be cutting it close. I need to really size this well and try it on again and make sure that I'm not making this too large. With a necklace, it's really pretty easy. Let me get Allie's on here so you can see that one. It's really pretty easy to size because a necklace, if it's just a hair too long, it's not going to make that much difference. But if a bracelet is not the right size, it's just going to fall off your wrist, right? So we don't want that to happen. Let me just tie a couple more knots here, and then I'll show you. We're going to take a look at it in size. So just as a reminder, these threads that I cut at the beginning of the project, this is regular Ceylon, okay? And I cut 2 yards of each thread, 2 yards each, and then I folded those strands over at the center point through the shank of the button. So let's take a look here and see how this looks lengthwise. You can see here it is folded over the shank. Can you see that there? Folded over. And then I had 2 interior strands and 2 outer strands that I worked with. So let's start by seeing if this loop that I've made, it's going to be just, I need to make like 4 more knots. Can you see this side view right there? Or just maybe even, whoops, no, you can't see. Maybe just like 2 more, right? Because I need enough space for that to just slide on over. But let's take a look and see how this is going to sit. And I think those little dangles are pretty cute there on the end. So let's bring this loop around the button. And as I come back in, yep, that'll be great. And I'll just finish it off right there. So we're good. We're good to go lengthwise. So let me just make this a couple more little knots just so the loop has a little bit of room to accommodate the button and the shank of the button. Let me go ahead and just lash this down real quick to my board. I'm using the deep dish project tray. You could also use a macrame board if you have the macrame board, but I like the project tray for this. So there's 1, 2, maybe I'll do 2 square knots, 4 sets of half hitches. Okay, so now I'm going to send all of this thread back through that roller. Okay, so I'll send the center 2 first, and then I'll send the outer 2. So kind of push that roller up to open up a little tunnel. And then we'll get these second set through there. It's a handy little closure. I mean, you can finish a lot of, like these could just be strands. They don't have to be this woven business, right? You could just string, 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 put them through a roller, macrame, 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 and come back around and close it off like this. So it's a good technique to have in your bag of tricks for beadwork. All right, so here we go, pulling those pairs so they come down. Now, before I do anything else, now that this is nice and tight and where it should be, I'm going to hold this in place here with my fingers and just double check that this slides over the button, and indeed it does. So now it's kind of hard to see because I've got these dangles on here, but see how there's a little bit of space there underneath this roller. I'm going to come in and I'm going to macrame down over the top of that. And I could even take this macrame all the way down to right here. Let's just see how it comes out. Okay, so let me get my little piece. Where did my little piece of Ceylon go? I'm going to just put it through this loop because again, I'm macrameing, so everything needs to be nice and taut. So I have a nice, easy, clean macrame. So I'm gonna, let me lift this camera so you can see what I'm doing. So here's that little piece of Ceylon. Then let me flip those charms over. I'm going to try and continue with the 2 strands that were on the inside, which I think are these. These are my 2 strands. No, it's this one right here. These are my 2 strands, yeah, that were on the outside that I macrameed with. And these are the strands from the inside. I'm going to come in and tack it down right there with that clamper. Now I'm going to kind of bring this around. Whoops, that's not right. Let me switch that cord. It's this cord. And I can tell because these 2 cords that are coming out, see how they're sitting now nice and tight together. So I'm going to bring these strands around and I'm going to actually cross them in the back and bring them around. Because what I want is for this macrame, I'm going to capture the macrame that's back here. You can't see that, so let me get a little tighter. the macrame that's back here that came, up and formed the loop. And I want to capture these two strands that are coming out of the loop here. So I'll just start, come up from the back and start on either side. It doesn't make any difference. I'll start with making my loop on the left. I go over that strand, under this double strand and the bracelet itself. Grab that thread and make my first half hitch so it sits under that roller bead. Let me get nice and tight so you can see that. So you can see my half hitch knot is sitting right there. So now I just keep going back and forth. Now the loop goes to the right. I go under the center cords and under the bracelet, and I'll knot over the top of that. Have your knotting tweezers ready, because sometimes the knots want to fall out of place. But see there, it's starting to look like the macrame I want it to look like. So I'll come in, bring it down, and tie it. Bring it to the right, my loop, tighten it down. So this macrame that's forming underneath my roller bead is a little bit thicker. Okay, let me tie one more. And again, do note that this is a pre-recorded session, so I know that you guys might be answering questions, but I know that Janice and Geeta are here for you to answer those questions, or you can always email us if you have any other questions there. So let me get a little bit tighter here, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to tie last two knots here because I've got some space, and I'm going to just add a little bit of glue. I'm going to tie two more macrame knots, and the little bales of the beaded beads, the beaded bales that I made, once this is complete, once I have this done and the strands are done and everything is thread burned and finished, that little bale, those pieces will slide, they can slide along and be up closer to that roller bead as well. So they'll have a little more room. I'm finding it a little hard to see here, but I want to make sure I haven't caught anything. There we go. And I'll add one more dab of glue because this will be our very final closure. And I'm just going to bring it right up there, glue it Drea style. Now you could, if you wanted, have a needle underneath there as your macrame. You'd macrame over a big eye needle, put the ends, like we've done it before, put those ends through the needle, and then pull these ends back up through instead of cutting them off. But I think the glue for this will be sufficient. There we go. So just make sure that center cord is nice and even. One final glue. I'm going to give you a nice up close view of this. So I'm sorry I'm a little farther away. And then I'll show you where I'll thread burn this. So let me undo this. So see here how it looks a little bit like a gluey mess, but once that glue dries, and I can actually, let me get a little, I don't have my trusty toothpicks here, but I can just get a little bit of that paper and just kind of spread that out. And once this dries, we'll be good to go. Okay, so see that there? We're good. So now those center strands, I'm going to get rid of. So I'm going to go ahead and throw caution to the wind and do some thread burning here because I find that I think it's the cleanest. So I'm going to get the tip of my thread burner right in there. Then I'm going to heat it. And you can see I was very careful. I just pulled that right forward. I would let this glue sit 24 hours before I cauterized it with the thread burner, but I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of these little extra bits here um, just for the sake of the demo so you can see it. I always like to let my glue really cure on my thread, and that makes a huge difference in the longevity of this piece. So you can see that the little bail that I made on this piece will be able to kind of slide up just a little bit here. There we go. Give it just a little bit of space along there. Let me turn it so it's not upside down. So those guys are hanging out there. And here you can see that loop just fits perfectly. So what we've got are our bead, our button there, our roller bead, our little charms, and the rest of our bracelet. So let's try this on and see how it looks. Let me pull the camera back a little bit too. So again, it's a nice closure. You can use this on a multiple strand necklace. I love using thread, as you know, to string with. You can also make the, isn't it hard to put a bracelet on yourself? Always is. You can also make the little beaded bails on these pieces a little bit larger. I used 8 beads for this. You can go ahead, maybe use 10, and I think I used 6 for, or 7, maybe I'd use 9 for these, but they fit fine on there. They're not going anywhere, and there's some movement. So you can see here how nicely that sits on the wrist, and here it is on the back. And if you just wanted to elongate this and make it, this is 7.5 inches, maybe if you made this in 3 sections, right? 3, it would make a really beautiful necklace. You would want this to sit kind of close up to the neck. This wouldn't be something that would kind of drag any lower, but 20 inches or so would be a nice length, maybe even a little bit shorter, so it hugs closer around your neck. But you could start in the center, string your pieces on, then start your macrame and go out this way, so you could really measure it exactly how you needed it to be. Okay, so this is it, folks. Water Garden is completed. I'm very pleased with how this came out. Thank you to Ali Mori for this wonderful project that she created for beadshop.com. It's such a happy, I think, whimsical piece. And again, it gives you a lot of leeway in here kind of to create the different petals and things on this piece. I'll get it a little bit closer in there. There you go. So do stay tuned, you guys. We were talking a little bit on Wednesday about the restock of the check glass. So keep your, if something is out of stock on the website, just make sure and add yourself to the notification list. And as soon as it comes back in, you'll get an email, and then you can jump on it to grab those pieces you want. Also, remember, like I showed you on Wednesday, we have a lot of our new check glass that I showed you. Those are in our Just In section. You can find that there. And of course, everybody, you will be able to see me on the Bead Shop social media on our YouTube channel this weekend, because as I am on here with you on this recording, I am actually over in Texas at the Macrame with our friend Francesca Watson, and I'll be broadcasting tomorrow on Saturday on the YouTube Bead Shop YouTube channel, doing some mixing beads and metalworking and all of that fun stuff. So there's more information on my social, on the social on Makery, and I can't wait to see you there. Next week on Wednesday, I'm going to be playing around with a lariat. I think you will love this lariat project. It's perfect for the holidays, perfect for gift giving, because a lariat fits everyone. It can go from long to short. Well, thanks for joining me on this delicious water garden project. We also have our kind of secret uh, discount code is Makery20. If you use Makery20 through Sunday night, and Sunday is the 21st, at midnight Pacific time, you can knock 20% off of your bead shop cart. So that's kind of a little special. Kate's away doing a thing, right? Traveling. It's amazing. So we're back to doing this. So I'm staying safe. I hope you guys are staying safe. I'll see you on Saturday on our Bead Shop YouTube channel, and I'll see you next week for our lariat project. Thanks so much for coming along on this water garden extravaganza with me. And stay creative, everybody. We really, really, really appreciate you. And of course, you can find all of the, there it is, all of the product and the project from today's broadcast right on our website. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter for the latest discounts, giveaways, and new products. Alrighty. We appreciate you, everything however you support us. We are so, so grateful for you always. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you next